siksik sa balita ngayong linggo ang politika sa Pilipinas at unang linggo pa lang ng political conventions. Of course, you have Ping and Soto, no surprises there anymore. Then you have Go Duterte, and then you have Sara making a statement after the Go Duterte declarations. But let me ask you this, kasi ang dami nga nangyari, pero the more cynical and some would say the more realist-minded people might say na so far what we have are smoke and mirrors pa lang, and that what you see now may not necessarily be what you will be getting either in October 8 or by November 15. What do you think? Professor Tayao, let me start off with you. Left, right tayo. Anong tingin nyo? Mukha bang ano na ito, o mukhang fog and ano pa lang, the fog of war starting pa lang?
If you're referring to the nomination of Senator Bongo and
Yes, sir.
President Duterte, doon mag-a-apply yung sinasabi mo na parang smoke screen yan. And I've always been saying, unfortunately, I'm not sure whether this will still be effective and a strategy, no? Because this happened in 2016, and I've always been saying, in 2016, then Mayor Rodrigo Duterte, who's now our president, of course, was a contender, was a challenger. Ngayon kasi siya yung champion so to speak. So in other words, the only way to move forward is to be on the defensive, no, not on the offensive. Not to mention, of course, that if in the opposition what they're saying is they have to be united, all the more with the administration kasi nga defensive ka and all the attacks now are directed towards the administration. So ang hirap nitong ganitong sitwasyon, if you have to fend for your for yourself within your very own turf, no? And instead of concentrating on your strategies moving forward, kailangan mo muna mag-house cleaning. Yun yung pinaka-nakakapahala dito. So let's see if it will still work, no? As far as the strategy of wait and see is concerned. I would still rather say declare now, especially during the pandemic, that the campaign would be different. So hindi ka na pwedeng mag-ikot-ikot basta-basta. You have very little time left and very little opportunity with you to go around and campaign. So I hope the contenders really have taken all those into consideration in the scribbling their steps moving forward.
Professor Manhit, sir.
Good evening. What we see really is a lot of political noise, because at the end of the day, it's who files by the first week of October, and a lot of things are happening really behind the scene. When I hear news that Mayor Sara is not running because of simply the statement of the father that he's running, what's the use of all the things that she has done, the launches in different places since January of this year? So it really tells you that is this really, and PDP Laban, it's not really a force to reckon with when you look at it, given the nature of, first, will they be the official PDP Laban? That's still a question up for COMELEC to decide. So it's not really to put focus, and I really don't understand why they proceeded with the convention. There's no political value whatsoever, but something that we need to look at really there are running surveys now, and we might see long list that will come out in public, but there will be commission question inside it, and that will define the final list of candidates. I think they're all testing. You see some advertisement coming out, some from both mainstream and social media. So there's a final push by people trying to project themselves. So key to that really is what will happen come October.
Dean Tony. And also, Professor, I suppose this November 15 din kasi last day ng substitution
Yes, so, the substitution, it's good that it's earlier. It's earlier substitution.
May second date na tayong binabantayan ngayon. Hindi lang yung first date, second date na kailangan bantayan ngayon Dean Tony po.
I have the same observation. But I want to also reiterate din yung sinabi ni Ed na this is a different time and a different campaign. the stakes also are very high, very high this time. And so I think that old strategies probably will not work. Diba? So for example, itong kala Mayor Sara at President Duterte, I actually think it's a real debate, no? That I really think that Sara doesn't want the father to run with her. She sees the father as a burden in the campaign, and she certainly doesn't want to be president with the father as the vice president, because she's already had a bad experience when the father was the vice mayor when she was mayor. Alam naman ng lahat yan, di ba? Na of course, vice president has no powers. Vice mayor, in fact, has powers, di ba? Because the vice mayor has the legislative
council, yes.
Council. But still, if the father is vice president, there are people in the cabinet that will owe their loyalty also to the father. So it makes sense that Sara doesn't want this. And I think I agree with her that the father will be more of a burden in the campaign rather than a positive, diba? So, but that will be resolved. That's a family quarrel, diba? In the Philippines, political family quarrels are generally resolved eventually, I mean, on what would benefit the family the most. So I would suspect that Sara would get her way and be the candidate, and that the vice president will also be eventually Sara's choice. I mean, rather than the president's choice. But you know, as we said, I mean, in this particular group, mukhang aabot tayo ng November sa substitution before we really know, di ba? Kasi it's the old book. They want to confuse the public. They want to confuse the opponent, so they'll do that. Pero mas straightforward sa tingin ko yung opposition, di ba? I mean, lalo na yung I mean, we already have, of course, Lacson and Soto. They will run. I think Pacquiao will run regardless of whatever the coalition talks. I mean, there's an attempt to talk to each other, but I think Pacquiao will run. There's doesn't make sense for him not to run as VP with anyone, and for anyone else actually to get him as VP, because he will not strengthen the other tickets. I mean, so the real question for me, the real surprise, the real suspense question that makes me that there's some suspense is what will happen to Lenny, VP Lenny, Isko Moreno, Grace Po only as vice president. What's the combination eventually there, and whether they'll be able to unify, right? And then in that case, whether Sambayan would be supporting one or the other, or a unified ticket from that camp. I mean, that's straightforward. That will happen before October 8th. So that's my view right now.